Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Ladies' Lunch and Learn. Today's class is dedicated in gratitude to Hashem for our blessings for Rabbi Ibragimov's classes. For Shlema of Chana Batzima Fega, who is in our prayers every single day by Orly Gila, Keith Sachs, and family. Am Yisrael Chai. All right, Ladies' and Lunch and Learn class is also dedicated in loving memory by Carol Goldman. Am I saying it right? Is it Lifsey? By Carol Shira Bat Simcha Alav Shalom, by her daughter Susan Portis. Please make all brachot l'il nishmata. Thank you so much for the dedication. All those that need a refuah should have it. All those that are still taken hostages wherever they may be, they should be freed now. Our soldiers should be protected, and inshallah this war should come to an end sooner than later. Okay, we are in the middle of a positive thinking class, a course, not a class, because for the next 13 weeks, God willing, I am going to be continuing this conversation. Okay, so we left off last week talking and sharing about the idea of how our thoughts impact our reality. And I want to share a couple of ideas about this as we move forward. Now, the human brain is still not fully appreciated or understood. There are things the mind can do that are, people will say is pseudoscience, not real science, but there are certain things we do know. Fact, do you know that the human brain produces 20 watts of energy every single day, right? 20 watts is enough to light a dim light bulb, okay? So your brain actually has a electromagnetic current that runs through it, and that's important because your brain also has an electromagnetic field that it emits as well. And electromagnetism is a force that is responsible for all movement, all things on the planet. There is someone by the name of Nikola Tesla. You may be familiar. He became popular because of Elon Musk starting his car company called Tesla. And one of Tesla's great fundamentals of life was he had several interesting things. He was a very peculiar person. He was obsessed with three numbers: 3, 6, and 9. These were his crazy numbers. As a matter of fact, he was so obsessed with these three numbers that if he was going to a hotel, he had to have a room that had one of the two out of the three numbers in his room, otherwise he wouldn't stay there. He would wash his hands 3 times. He would walk around the block 3 times before he walked into his house. He had all these kind of crazy superstitions, but he believed that there was something mystical and powerful about these three numbers, 3, 6, and 9. He wasn't wrong. Al Pi Kabbalah, there is truth to it. But he did say something that's important. He said that, and it's relevant to our class. He says, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, you have to understand that the secrets of the universe can be understood through 3 things: energy, frequency, and vibration. These are the 3 things that he speaks about, okay? What does that mean? Okay, your mind is energy, okay? Your brain has a particular frequency that it operates in, and vibration has to do with magnetism. It has to do with resonance, how all things interconnect. It's not an accident that there is something profound. You meet a person for the first time, there are certain people you click with, some people you don't. The people that you click with, you're most likely on a similar frequency. The people that you don't click with, you're on different frequencies. You don't connect. Again, is it science or not? I don't know. Maybe it's pseudoscience. But there's a famous doctor named Dr. Emoto, who was famous for his water crystal experiments. You can Google it yourselves. What he did was he took water crystals under a microscope. We look at how the structure of water aligns itself. And what he did was he just added words to a glass, positive words, and the water crystals would align themselves in the most perfectly harmonious kind of way you could imagine. Beautiful designs. And whenever he used negative words, the water crystals align themselves in a very misaligned, disconnected, disorganized kind of way. And his argument was that your thoughts impact the world around you. When you pick up a glass of water and you're thinking negative things, that water becomes tainted. If you want to try this, I've done this before actually. It's called the rice experiment. Everyone here familiar with the rice experiment? Okay, it's very simple, right? You make 1 pot of rice. Take the rice after it's finished, get 2 Tupperwares, okay? Put half the rice into 1 Tupperware and the other half in the other side of Tupperware, okay? Close the lid. Take one of the Tupperware and write as many positive words you could imagine on it. Happy, love, kind, giving, understanding, patient, whatever it is. On the other one, write negative things. Hate, anger, whatever things you could possibly imagine that's negative. What you'll find is that the box, the Tupperware that has the negative words in it, in 2 weeks will have mold in it. But the positive one won't have any mold in it. It'll last. You leave it outside, put it away, just leave it out, don't put it in the fridge, just leave it out for 2 weeks. You'll see that the one with the positive words somehow does not spoil as fast as the one with the negative words. Okay, that's your test. Go ahead and try it. It's all verifiable. You can do it on yourself. If you don't want to do it, you can Google it on YouTube. People have them. They speed capture them, so you can see actually the two of them together and how one becomes moldy and gross and the other one does not. How does it work? I don't know. But I think that the point that I'm making today is if you're here today, this afternoon, in this beautiful summer day, is because I want to reiterate the idea that your thoughts impact reality. Okay? Whether it's measurable or not is irrelevant to me. There's something else called the double slit test. Everyone here familiar with that is? The double slit test was a famous experiment done about 8 years ago. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to see what would happen if you take a little bead of light, a photon of light, and shoot it through 2 slits to figure out where the photon will bounce off on the other side. They're measuring these things. What they discovered was something fascinating. They got different results as to whether or not the photon was being observed by a human or not. That means if I was watching the experiment, I'd have one set of results. If I set up a video camera, I'd have a different set of results, right? Which means on a quantum level, on the smallest level possible, what you're thinking about somehow has some type of an influence on your mitziyut, your reality. This is not me, this is science. This is what our Chachamim have been saying for so long. Now, having said all that positive thinking can impact your reality, I want to share a very sobering story. Okay, it's a true story. There was a Chassid who was in the fur business, and he did very, very well. And the custom was that you don't do business before tefillah. You don't go out, you don't sell your wares until you finish your praying, you got a nice breakfast, then you go out, you open up your shop. This guy, this Chassid, is in his house. He didn't go to Beit Knesset yet. He's sitting there, and all of a sudden he gets a knock on the door, and there's some Gentile at his door saying, hey sir, how many furs do you have? I'll buy all of them. So he's like, listen, he didn't know what to do. I can't sell this guy anything because I don't do business before I pray. So I'm going to shoo him away. So, he says, I'm not leaving. I want to buy all your furs. So, the Chassid says, I'm going to give him a crazy price. He tells him some astronomical price for his wares. He says, you know what? I'll pay for it. So the Chassid says, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm a man of principle. I don't do business before I go to tefillah. I am not selling it to you no matter what. Closes the door, goes to Beit Knesset, and he does his thing, comes back, and weeks and months pass by, and nothing happens. That's the end of the story. Why do I like telling that story? I like telling that story because I'm not a voodoo doctor. I'm not telling you any kind of witchcraft. There is a din v'cheshbon in the world. There is a very clear, system on the planet. Okay, I've heard people say things like, make challah for this person, and we'll have a challah bake, and we'll cure their cancer, and we'll do this is nonsense. Okay, you have to do your hishtadlut. The results are not up to me. Why am I sharing it now? Because you know what, Rabbi, I know people that are very, very positive people, or they think they're positive. I tried positivity, it doesn't work for me. That's nonsense, right? We're not responsible for the results, but you and I are responsible for the actions. And therefore, my job is to do whatever I can on my part to play my role as being the most happy, appreciative, humble, open person that I could possibly be. That's on me. How you respond, is on you. What happens as a result of the response? That's up to Borei Olam. Sometimes we get what we want, and sometimes we don't. We get what we get, and we're not upset. We don't get upset. That's just the way it is. Okay? We take what we have, and B'ezrat Hashem, it's all good, but sometimes it's not so good. And therefore, my job is just about my response. I just want to mention one other thing before we begin this topic, and there's something I saw in the Parsha this week that's very relevant. Actually, you know what? I have a hard time reading this because I just became a grandpa about 4 months ago, and ever since then, I can't see in the dark anymore. It's too dark in here. But I want to say, where's that pasuk? It says over here as follows. He says over here, this is the story of the spies. Okay, the spies come back. Okay, they report on the land. Interesting, by the way, because this is an all ladies group, I'll tell you a nice idea. Pasuk in the beginning says, Shlach lecha anashim. Send for yourselves men. V'yatur et haaretz. The Kli Yakar says, you can look at this later. He says, had Moshe sent Nashim, there would have been no problem, right? The problem was, he said the men, if you would have said the ladies, there would have been no problem. He wrote this 200 years ago. This wasn't a feminist move. There were no groups protesting him. He just believes that women are holy, and therefore, if had the pasuk said, Shlach Nashim, it would have been a problem, but because he said the men, they ruined everything. All right, anyway, so that's what he says. The Kliyakar says that. But then later on, when they come back from spying out the land, okay, they make this very interesting observation. He says, V'shamar inu et Nephilim. When we were there in Canaan, we saw this thing called the Nephilim. Okay? B'nei Anak, these are the children of giants. Mina Nephilim, from the angels that fell. Okay? V'tihi be'enenu kechagavim. In their eyes, we were seen and perceived as grasshoppers. V'chen hayinu be'enehem. And that's how they perceived us. The question is, why are the Maraglim telling us how these Anakim perceived them? Are you in a position to tell somebody how they're being perceived? You're not. You're not in that position. You're not in a position to go ahead and tell them. So there's this idea of this is my last part, and we'll go into the sheets because I like it when we look at the sources together. There's a story of a man in Europe who was, didn't get much attention. His wife didn't give much attention. His children didn't give much attention. When he'd cross the street, no one ever asked him for directions. He's one of those guys, you just you ignore that guy. The kids in the street would never ask him for anything. So anyway, one day he decides he's going to the hat store. He wants to buy a new hat. And he finally finds a hat with a nice little feather on the side of it. He's really excited for it. And he takes his old hat, he leaves it there, and he walks out. He walks out of the store. And all of a sudden, the children in the street are asking him for directions, and he's getting all this attention. He comes home, and his wife says, "Wow, how was your day?" He starts talking to him, and he's like, she says, "How was your day?" And he just points to his hat, and she's like, "What?" She's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "My hat." She's like, "What about it?" She's like, "You don't like it?" She's like, "It's the same hat you always wear." And he takes off his hat, and he realizes that he left the new hat in the store, and he's wearing his old hat. But the only thing that changed was his own perception of himself. Right? So much of who we are is a reflection of how you and I think of who we are. Forget about what other people are thinking. Oh, they're not going to like it. No one's going to come, whatever it is. These are all crazy things that we put in our own heads. And you have to stop that. Positive thinking begins with the recognition that each one of you sitting here today have a responsibility to change, to reconfigure your mind into a positive mindset. No one's doing it for you. You wake up, you're in a bad mood. Whose fault is that? It's your fault. You're having a bad day. Whose fault is it? It's your fault. You could wake up, you turn that frown upside down, okay? Stop slouching, sit up straight, take a deep breath, and you will find the confidence and the strength to do what you need to do. Everything else is what we call ma'aseh satan yetzer hara. There's a negative force that wants to destroy you in the world, and if you don't have a very clear path to overcoming the challenge, you will be subsumed by it. It will consume you. And therefore, the sources that we're going to read over here, from the Gemara, from the Mishnah, from the Chachamim, are all telling you exactly the same thing. It's there in plain sight. Everything we're going to see today is all about one thing. You choose the world that you live in. Your perception will attract the types of things that your own mind is relating to. So if you have a negative mindset, you'll always see negative things. You have a positive mindset, you'll always see the positive things. It's up to you. You choose. You can see everything wrong with what your spouses or children are doing, and you can remind them of it every single day. You're not going to help them, and you're not helping yourselves. You're only creating obstacles. But if you become their advocate, their cheerleader, and you're supportive, you can help someone push through the challenge they're going through in life. That's what you and I are here for. You choose what kind of person you want to be. Do you want to be the happy person? Do you want to be the negative person? Do you want to be the person that's uplifting people or putting people down? That is on you. It's your choice. Everything in the world can be said to anyone, but it all depends on how you're going to say it. You can share anything with anyone, even if it's negative things. But if you're not going to come from a positive place, if you're not going to share it from a place of positivity with the real belief that what you're going to share is going to change that person for the good, you're stuck in a world of negativity. It's called neuroplasticity. You begin to see a world that your brain is connected to. Neuroplasticity is like this. You go to, many years ago, I had for men, cars are an important thing, okay? And, the idea of driving a minivan, is a scary thing for a guy. Like, you're going to go into that, like you're driving cars your whole life, you're trying to pull people, and like you're getting this thing that has the doors slide open, it's this big thing. I never even saw a minivan before. My wife's like, you got to get a minivan. Like, what's a minivan? I just thought vans. So, you ever had that experience where like you hear something for the first time, and then like you start seeing it everywhere around you, right? So like all of a sudden I'm seeing minivans everywhere. I never saw a minivan. Why is it? How come I never saw a minivan before? Now all of a sudden I see minivans everywhere, right? Why did that happen? It's because it's a choice that I made in my mind. I heard something, I'm curious about it, and now I'm noticing it. It was always there. Meaning, if I was able to rewind everything that happened the day before I heard that word, minivan, right? I'm sure I would have seen many minivans, but because it's not something I'm interested in, my brain filters it out. Your brain spends 80% of its energy filtering out information that it does not want you to see, or because simply because you don't want to see it. Do you understand that? Your brain is canceling your reality. Part of limud, part of learning, part of coming to classes is to create a more expansive brain so you could take in more of reality. So the idea of your positivity, your happiness, that is something that is on you. And Bezrat Hashem, together over the next few weeks, I'm hoping to help you increase it. Okay? So there's a Gemara in source number 1, Gemara in Chulin. It says as follows: it says, eat, drink, less than his financial capabilities, clothe himself according to his capabilities, and honor his wife and children beyond his capabilities, for they are dependent on him, and he, in turn, is dependent on the Creator. What is this Gemara talking about? Well, what's he talking about over here? Why should I go ahead and eat and drink less and give more to my family? Right? So look at number 2. Rabbi Chaim Shmulevitz says, a man should give more than he is able to his wife and children, so that they will believe that he is capable of earning a living, and the force of their belief in his earning power will bring him success in his efforts. What's that? You believe that? Yeah, I believe that too. That's why we're sharing it, right? So just a reaffirmation of these ideas, okay? Before we go on, are there any questions about anything I've said up until now? Is there anyone lost? We're all together, we're on the same page? Okay, great. Here is a source in the Gemara, very clear, that what you do, how you perceive your own reality, how the people around you perceive you, impacts your reality. It impacts your mazal. We spoke about last week. The word mazal comes from the word nozel. Right? What is nozel? It's your part. It's true. It's nozel is a drip, right? It's a drip. Your mazal is a drip that's coming every single day. There's a drip. And now the question is, well, how do you get that positive drip in your life? Your positive drip in your life comes from the positive drips, the little things you do every single day. It's not once. It's not twice. If you would ask Nikola Tesla, you know what he would tell you? He would tell you that 3 times a day, three positive things, 6 times a day for 9 seconds. You want to change your mindset? Pick 3 things that you want to focus on that are positive. Think about them 6 times, different parts of the day for 9 seconds, and that is the beginning of change. Do that for your 90 days, and you'll change your reality. Okay? That is the beginning of all change. You have to choose what your world's going to look like. So if you are struggling with, being besimcha, being happy, then you ask yourself, well, how am I making the change? Most of the time, we want to make the change in a chitzoni way, external. I'm not happy. Oh, I'm not happy because if that person would do this for me, then I'd be happy. If only I had X, Y, and Z, then I'd be happy. That is sheker, falsehood. The only thing that's in control of your happiness is you, no one else. Nothing outside of you can control your happiness. Only you can control your happiness. And I know it's a hard thing to fully wrap your heads around, but all I can say is try it. You try it. Try it for a week. Try for a week and say, this week, I'm going to choose every single day to be besimcha. I'm going to choose every single day this week to go ahead and elevate the people around me. I want you to know happiness is contagious, just like a yawn is contagious. Don't yawn, right? It's contagious, right? It has the ability of impacting the world around us. So when we stay in a negative state, we're continuing this flow of negativity into the world. We need to change that.
So 369, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Three items that you're thinking about, or three positive concepts, 6 times a day, twice in the morning, twice in the afternoon, twice in the evening, 9 seconds. Minimum of 9 seconds.
Can you give an example of what you would say would be a positive thought?
Yeah, I mean, I could say like this: no matter what happens when I come home, I'm going to be happy, even if dinner isn't ready. Like last night, I'm just joking. Last night dinner was ready. No. Okay. It could be that no matter what this other person says to me today, I'm going to respond positively first.
That's the positive thought.
Correct. You find your positive thought, your affirmation that you're going to, drill down on, 3 of them, and I want you to remind yourself of them 6 times a day. 3 things, 6 times a day, 9 seconds each time. Yeah.
Can it be a gratitude thought?
It can totally be a gratitude. Yeah, gratitude for sure. Yeah, it can be a.
I feel like I do this, but I flipped it a little bit.
How so?
Because first you have to realize that it's a choice, right? The whole idea
Right.
is that you get to choose to be happy, and you get to choose how you think. And so I did this, but a little bit differently. Like I kept on reminding myself of all the amazing things in my life, and then you can really focus on it, and you know that it's a real thing, right? And it could be anything. And then you slowly realize how you always look at the positive in everything.
Right. So that's hakarat hatov. That's another way of doing it. So one way of doing there's all kinds of different affirmations ways of doing it. You could just be working on humility. You could get there. You could do it through hakarat hatov. This is different. This is more aggressive. This is me recognizing that I want to bring more positivity. Of course, positivity will come with hakarat hatov also. Different ways of getting there. But this is more of like a frontal attack on negativity. I don't want to be negative. I have negative thoughts. I let negative thoughts get in my way. I don't want that in my life. I'm going to be forcing positive thinking in my head. Yeah.
Can it be the same 3 every day?
Yes, it can be. It can be. It can be the 3. It's not. It's 6 times a day. But the 3, yes, the same 3 things. Yes.
3 thoughts. 6
Correct. When I was part of a group of young aspiring rabbis who we flew in a rabbi from Israel once a month, and we flew him for one class for 1 hour.
Wow.
Okay, came in once a month. We had this guy. He was an expert in building midot, working on midot, and there are 30 of us, so we all chipped in, whatever it was, $100 a month, and we flew him in. Okay, what we did with this rabbi was that we would work on different midot. So, for example, we worked on savlanut, patience, right? We worked on savlanut for 18 months. Every month we had a meeting. He gave us a class, kind of like this, like a source sheet where we took it. Our job was to have the homework to review it every single day for 30 days till our next class. And then in addition to that, we had homework. Every single night we had to chart how we were working on a particular midah. Right? So let's say the midah is hakarat hatov, or it's on positive thinking, or it's on anything, on savlanut. It could be on anivut. It could be on kavod. Whatever the midah is, in order for that midah to become real for you, you have to have an accounting of you actually thinking about it. And therefore, the charting every single day is you get a check just for charting. You want to build a habit of charting. And every day it's the mindfulness of you thinking of that midah. And the more and more you do that, the more and more that becomes your reality. Yeah?
What about surrounding yourself with positive people?
Oh, that's for sure, badai. No question about it. We say, there's nothing better than a shechen tov, chaver tov, all that is, of course, that's a given. But sometimes I can't control that. You know what I'm saying? I can't always control the guy who bought a house across the street or the apartment next door. You know what I'm saying? I can't always control. I mean, I wish I could, but I can't control those things. You could always move. You could do that also, but you're not always in a position to do those things. And therefore, it doesn't matter what happens around you. The first place to start, that's a chitzoni response. You need to have a pnimi response first, and that's what this is. This is the pnimi response. Yeah, we could. The truth is that after we finish this series, the next series, I'm going to go through the 13 midot with you, and then after that, we're going to pick one midah, and we're going to do it together over the year coming up, B'ezrat Hashem, on Wednesdays, not on Tuesdays. All right, anyway. Okay, so he says over here, Tana Rabbi Meir says, what's a midah? Midah is a trait, right? It literally means a measurement, midot. right? So it's a midah is one particular trait, and the idea in Judaism is that midot are, some of them we're born with. You have a predisposition to certain kinds of traits, right? And for most of us, there are traits that you and I have to work on to bring about in our own lives. And all too often, most of us are guilty of leaning on our natural talents to get by in life because it's convenient, but we don't really spend the time to become something more. The way in which you and I become something more is not by working on your external muscles, but it's on working on your internal essence, on your being, and that's your character. And the more and more you're able to infuse your character with depth and meaning, the more you're able to change the world in an external way. So everything goes inner, outer. It starts with your mind. Okay, so yes. Go, B'chavod.
Is it the same attribute that we do, is it the same one?
No, it's similar. It's similar. Those are the attributes of Hashem. The Kel Rachum Chanun, Erech Apayim, that's all Hashem. We do have those midot, but there's a whole other system of midot that we work on. Yes, those are yes. Those midot of Hashem are ones that you and I are supposed to emulate in our lives, no question about it. But there are specific midot that are designed to help us become something more. Like Rachum is a very high level. I can never be Kel, right? So Kel, Rachum, Chanun, those are all very deep, godly levels. We think about them and we try to emulate them, but that's not where we start. We start in the smallest things, like something like to be sovel. Like something as a nivut is where you start. The idea that you are small and big, your responsibility, understanding the simplicity of what you are and the grandeur of what you are. That's where we want to begin, not with the big things. Yeah.
And where these are described? Like where are they?
They're described in several different places. The Arizal speaks about it in Kabbalah, but the system itself was developed and designed by Rabbi Yisrael Salanter from Salant. He was the head of the Musar movement, and he organized it in the way that we have it today. And it was the first time in history that it ever needed to be organized, because these were things that were like always baked into the fabric of Jewish life. It never had to be articulated. Like, think about how much our parents, our grandparents did Jewishly. They didn't go to yeshiva. They didn't have a formal, but it was just somehow ingrained in them. It was through osmosis. Their world allowed for things to be passed down that we don't have, and certainly our kids don't have. Our kids need instruction for everything, right? So as we move further and further away from the Sinai experience, okay, more and more needs to be expressed and explained. So he only wrote this down about 200 years ago. But until then, it was just a total oral tradition, but he wrote it down for us. It's a good question. Okay. Gemara in Sanhedrin says as follows: Tana Rabbi Meir Omer, "Minda she'adam moded modedin lo." What does that mean? Number 3, right? Rabbi Meir says, in accordance with the measure of a person's metzah to his others, that's how God is going to respond to you. So if you're someone who's always negative, you know what? I hate to tell you this, but God's going to respond to you in a negative kind of way. If you're always looking at the worst possible scenario, that's your reality. This Gemara is telling you, Rabbi Meir is telling you, that the way in which you respond to others, God will respond to you. God is everything. Your reality responds to you in the way that you respond to it. And therefore, choose what it's going to look like. The Gemara in Tanit says there's an incident involving Rabbi Eliezer. This is a Gemara, but Rabbi Eliezer was the rabbi of Rabbi Akiva. Okay, and it says that Rabbi Eliezer would go ahead and pray for rain, and nothing happened. But Rabbi Akiva went ahead and he prayed for rain, and it started raining. How could that happen? Why is it that it rained for Rabbi Akiva and not for Rabbi Eliezer? So the Gemara at the end of it, the last 2 lines, Rabbi Eliezer, but he was, this one is forgiving, and that one is not forgiving. Meaning the reason why it rained for Rabbi Akiva is because Rabbi Akiva forgives the Jewish people. Rabbi Eliezer does not. Look at the next source. Turn the page. Number 5. Rabbi Akiva said, Master of the world, your people Israel have sinned. Nevertheless, please have mercy on them and forgive them. Even if they're undeserving, give them rain. For your sake, for the sake of your great name, for the sake of the covenant that you made with our ancestors. That is what Rabbi Akiva is. Hashem responds to him the way he responds to the Jewish people. Rabbi Eliezer is like, they don't deserve it, don't give it to them. Rabbi Akiva is saying, yes.
I also like
Compassion, yeah. Go ahead.
Like, somebody, there was like a drought and they were praying for rain, and they told the rabbi it's not working, and the rabbi was like, because you didn't bring your umbrellas. Like,
You don't believe it.
believe in your own prayer.
That story is a story of bitachon, right? This is different. This is a story about how, look at the next one. Rabbi Eliezer says in number 6, right? He's told God, Master of the universe, as long as Israel has not yet repented, it's impossible for rain to fall. He defined his reality. How can it rain if they're sinning? Can't rain. Therefore, it's impossible. Rabbi Eliezer prays. Rabbi Eliezer's reality is such where if the Jewish people haven't repented, can't rain. That's his mitziut. Rabbi Kiva lives in a world where even if Jews sin, they could still reign. God answers him and not Rabbi Eliezer. And it rained for Rabbi Akiva. Well, this is the story. The story is told. The story is told to teach you a lesson, right? Remember, these are all very deep spiritual lessons. Two people greater. The rabbi greater than the student. Certainly knew more about Torah, right? The guy with the longer white beard, okay. But Rabbi Kiva, the young, rabbi, aspiring rabbi, he says, you know what? The only difference is that I believe that God forgives no matter what. And it rains for him. That's the lesson of here. Sometimes older people make mistakes in how they perceive reality, and therefore, the Gemara is saying, you got to break that reality. Shatter the way you're thinking about your world. Stop thinking about the way you did up until now, and start thinking about the change that you want to bring into your lives. Pasuk says, Poteach et yadecha umazbiya lekol charatzon. All you got to do is open up your hands, and Hashem's willing to give it to you. He's there. Open up your hands. Do you know that when you open up your hands, you're more willing to receive information that you're actually hearing? They did the study on this, actually. They put college students in a room, and they had everyone do this. And when you do this, you're more willing to receive. I don't know why it works, but it does. Right? Just do this. If you're sitting like this, you're not willing to receive. You don't have to sit like this the whole class. But I'm just saying, there's something to be said about opening yourself up. Your physical reality is often an expression of what's happening in your inner world. Right? It is. So you don't always want to open your hands. Sometimes you do want to sit like that. That's okay. But you're more open when you're doing this. So if you're at a Sephardic person's house for Shabbat, right? You take out the hamotzi and you say the ene kolecha. You say poteach et yadecha. Everyone opens up their hands, and we're there to open up the possibility of the conversation that's going to happen on the table. It's not about the bread only. It's about the people in your lives. And sometimes we need to open ourselves up to the people around us. We're always sitting like this. We're always closed. And sometimes it's okay to let people in. It's okay to be vulnerable. Open yourselves up. You'll be okay. Hashem will do what you do to others, to you. If you're going to be closed, you're not going to answer them. He's not going to answer you either. Yeah.
From morning we walk like this.
In where?
We walk like
No, do not walk like that. I did not say that, okay? I did not say walk like that. All I said was that there are times where we need to be more open. That's all I'm saying. I did not say that. I'm glad you asked me, because that would be weird. Everyone starts walking out. I get like, Rabbi, what did you do in that class? That's not me. What's that? But ladies do it with the candles also, by the way. Same idea. When you're lighting the candles, you're starting, it's the same idea. You're opening yourself up. You're bringing that shefa. You want to bring that shefa in. Okay. Okay, this is number 8. Oh, it's so late already. Okay, so let's skip number 8, okay? Because it's too long and I don't want to explain it. Number 9, okay? V'tered bat paro. You can see it yourself. It flows very nicely. V'tered bat paro. Okay, we know the story. She wants to go to the Nile River. She wants to take a bath. L'chotz et ha'ya'ar. Okay, she goes down there. She goes there with her maidservants, and she sees that there is a young baby boy in the basket over there. Okay, and we know that she stretches out her hands. Okay. One second. Oh, that's a whole other thing. Anyway, she has this whole experience. She's there with her maidservants. Okay, fine, great. Look at number 11 for a minute. This is tangential, but it's important. There are 2 requirements for the Jewish people to merit leaving bondage of Egypt. 2 requirements to leave the slavery of Mitzrayim. One was emunah, as the pasuk states, and the people believe. Ve'aminu b'Hashem Moshe Avdo. which means the entire nation believed that Hashem had appeared to Moshe Rabbeinu. The second requirement was that the people's ratzon, their desire to leave Egypt. If you don't have the ratzon to leave, you can't leave. This was problematic for Bnei Israel because despite their terrible enslavement, life was convenient for them in Egypt, and they were not inclined to journey out into the unknown desert. If you don't have the ratzon, if there's no will on your part to make the change, you're not going anywhere. You know, I meet with lots of young couples that are, what? They, 4/5 died in Mitzrayim, correct. You know, I meet with lots of young couples, and I often deal with a lot of shalom bayit issues, and not only young couples, unfortunately, but one of the things I first do when I meet with a young couple is to figure out who is the source of the problem, right? So I have a very easy way of doing it, okay? I do it very quickly. I could do it like in 5 or 6 minutes. What I want to hear is who's the weakest link in that relationship? Who's ready to walk away the fastest? Because the person that's willing to walk away the fastest is the least committed, and the one that is the least committed is the one that's causing all the problems. I can do that very quickly. And 99% of the time, the person that is least committed is where the issues are coming from. Now, what's often the funniest part is the least committed person is the one that's complaining the most about the relationship. And they think that they're the most justified for, the things that are wrong. Like they're not doing it. And generally speaking, I often find that they're usually the source of the problem. Okay, now I'm sharing that because there's a ratzon. In order for anything in life to work, any relationship in life to work, there has to be a commitment to that thing. That's what ratzon is. You want positivity in your lives? You want to bring good into your life? Well, what is the ratzon? Is there a ratzon to want that change? You could speak about the change, you could think about the change, you could make the affirmation for the change, but if there's no real ratzon, a commitment to the change, it ain't going to happen. Right? It's just not going to happen. Bat Paro, she has a ratzon. She wants to go ahead and reach that kid. Her reality changed. Her arm is stretched out and she pulls the kid in. Darkness came out. He stretches out his hand. He changes reality. They were armed, right? The Gemara Brachot says, what is armed? Okay. He says as follows. He says tangentially, the Gemara additional statement, Rabbi Chanina said everything in the hands of Hashem. Hakol b'dei shemayim chutz miyirat shemayim. And now Israel, what does the Lord your God ask of you other than to fear the Lord your God, to walk in His ways? Right? Hakol b'dei shemayim chutz miyirat shemayim means that everything is in the hands of heaven except for yirat shemayim, which means that there are certain things that only you're in control of. I have this young guy who wants to get married. He calls me up, Rabbi, can you marry me? I'm getting married right after Yom Kippur. I'm like, amazing, let me hear about your family. I have to do the due diligence to make sure everyone's Jewish. Turns out, he sends me these interesting documents, and his mother converted when, right before he was born, in some synagogue in Atlanta. So I can't find the synagogue, it closed down. I make some phone calls. Turns out that this was a conservative or a reform or some other kind. I don't even know what it was because it doesn't exist. A non-denominational synagogue made the conversion. So his father's Jewish, his mother's not. And I said, listen, I'm not questioning your Jewishness, but I can't officiate the ceremony for you. There was some kind of interesting conversion here, and I sent it to the local Beit Din over here, and I can't perform this. I'm sorry. Anything I could do to help you, I'm happy to help you. I'm happy to serve with you. I'm happy to advise you, but I just can't do that. So he says to me, you know what? I'm willing to convert. Can you help me go through conversion? So I said, okay, I'm happy to help you go through conversion. This is what you got to do. So I spent a couple hours going through everything with him, preparing for it. He's like, okay, I'm going to do it. He calls me back a week later. He's like, Rabbi, I can't do it. I cannot do it. He says, it's too much commitment. I can't commit to that right now. Right? His father's Jewish. He's not halachically Jewish. He has a Jewish identity. He went to Chabad his whole life. He's like, now I know why Chabad wouldn't take my sister. I'm like, but they took me. I'm like, yeah, if a Jewish girl married you, it's not an issue with your children being Jewish. But if your sister, it's a problem, right? Those kids are not Jewish, even though she may have a Jewish identity. It's complicated. But if you're not committed to this process, it's not going to work. No commitment. And that's the hardest thing about our identity. And I tried convincing him, and even though, so the question is, can you convince someone whose father is Jewish, but mother is not, to convert? We know the halacha is that if someone's mother's not Jewish, you're not convince them to convert at all. But actually, what's that? Why is it based on the mother? It's the only thing that, first of all, there's several reasons for this. This is a very good question. I could give you a whole class on it, and I don't have time to give you a whole class on it. But I'll say two things. One is that we never question the mother's identity. We always know who the mother is, no matter what. The father, who knows who the dad is? You know, as a matter of fact, when my last child was born, Tamima, I looked at this kid, she's blonde hair, blue eyes. I'm like, that's not my kid. I'm like, I looked at my wife. I'm like, what's going on over here? No, but the truth is, I didn't know this. I found this out later. As you get older, you run out of ink, so the younger children are lighter. Okay, so it's just a bad joke. Anyway, so okay, fine. It's a joke. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Anyway, anyway, okay, fine. Okay, I'm just trying to make fun. Okay, fine. So anyway, so kitsur is that. Where was I going with that? Oh, so to answer your question. So the second thing is that spiritually, women are the ones that carry the neshama. It's coming through them. And therefore, it's a spiritual thing. It's not a physical thing. It's not just about the father's father. What's that?
They carry the baby.
Yes, they do carry the babies. And that's the first answer. The first answer, they carry the baby. The second answer is that the mother's, it's not just a physical thing, it's also a spiritual thing. That there's something about a woman's soul, which is more loftier than the men, that it goes to the women. Remember that all this changed. It used to be it only went by the father and not the mother. Right? But it changed at Har Sinai. Now, I have a suspicion that the reason why it changed at Har Sinai is simply because the women did not sin at Har Sinai. The men did. Remember that everything that happened in the Chumash is supposed to be a rectification for the sin of Adam and Chava. Right? And therefore, the three cardinal sins is what destroyed Adam and Eve. Okay? Now, the three cardinal sins, again, are murder, adultery, and idolatry. Okay? These are the three, idolatry. Avodah zarah, gili arayot, and shvichut damim. Okay, these are the three things. So at Har Sinai, they're supposed to be metaken these three things. The women were not involved in these three things. The men were. You had the chet egel, okay. You had murder that happened over there, and you also had adultery happening there as well. Okay, these three things happened at at Har Sinai. The men were lowered in stature, the men were elevated in stature, and therefore the men lost that power, spirituality, and it went to the ladies. Okay, and this is why I believe it comes down to the women and not the men. What's that? The women did not participate. No, they only gave because their husbands forced them to, not because they wanted to. Lo nachon. Sorry, mechila. Lo nachon. No, go back and check it again. They did not want to give it. Their husbands forced them to give it, and they gave it reluctantly. They did not want. They knew what was happening over there. And the story of the whole story of this Sefer Bamidbar is really the story of the men messing up the planet that we live in. Okay, and the women, nothing's changed, right? And the women, what a surprise! And the women, no. So listen, so there is a little bit of a poo-pooing on the girls because they weren't able to elevate the guys. It goes both ways. And the fact that you and I are in a state today where masculinity was lost, that's a feminine issue. That femininity today does not know how to express itself as a femininity issue. That women don't even know what femininity is anymore. That's a whole other question, a whole fascinating conversation for. But regardless, it has so much to do with the world that you and I live in, which is a world that we want to elevate. And therefore, what the Gemara over here is saying simply is that it is our responsibility to make this world a better, greater place for ourselves through our actions. Okay? The Am Yisrael have a choice to make. Okay? You choose. Hakol b'dei shemayim chutz miyishna. The only thing that God can control is your own belief in the system itself. Everything else up to God. He could set it up the way He sets it up. You're born here, your parents, your family, socioeconomic, all those things, that's God laying it out. Again, how you respond, that's on you. The Yod Shemayim, how much of it you make it real, that's on you. Yeah. Want to say something? No, you don't like what I just said. I'm just making sure. I'm just reading. I'm just making sure. I don't want to get into trouble later. Okay, fine. Okay. I'm at number 15. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm trying to get through this quickly. I apologize. I know that we started eating at 12 o'clock, but I would like to start the class. I want to be finished by 1 o'clock so everyone could leave at 1 o'clock. So if I'm going to have the food come out at 11:45 so that you can eat earlier. I didn't start until 12:15 and now I feel rushed. Okay, so I'm all that pressure. Okay, fine. So where are we? Number 15. Rabbi Chanina says, a person injures his finger below on earth only if they declare about it on high. As it's stated, the Lord remains going and established, right? He says that therefore anything that happens in this world, this Gemara is saying, is something that happened from a higher plane. You don't stub your toe unless there's a gzeirah from above. Okay? Rabbi Eliezer says the blood of the wound affects the atonement like the blood of a burnt offering. Okay, it's the same idea over here that you and I are very much a reflection of what is being gozer above. What does that mean, gozer above? Okay? I have something called free will. My bechira. My free will is everything in Judaism. Free will is at the core of every single idea of Jewish faith. If there's no free will, if you and I cannot choose, you and I are just like an animal. And therefore, then God is unjust and he's cruel. If there's no free will, then you believe in a cruel God. Okay? But free will means that I take responsibility for my actions. My actions. Now, you wake up in the morning and you stub your toe. And it hurts. What comes next is on you. I can't control the pain that I'm feeling right now, but I could control maybe what comes out of my mouth right afterwards. I could have charata for saying things that I could have regret for some things I said that came out as a result of me stubbing my toe. How many times do we get in a situation where we're fighting with someone and we say things we regret? How many times do we say, you know what, they deserve it? Or are we going to become the bigger people and ask for mechila and say, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that? You choose. It's your choice. And that's, again, the same idea over here. Gemara is telling you that there is a gzeirah that comes from above. Sometimes you have a friend that comes in and they're in a bad mood and they take it out on you. What did I do? Nothing. But it's about your choice. How are you going to respond to the world around you? That's on you. Number 16. Ki hu hanoten lecha koach lasot chayil l'man hakim et brito asher nishba l'avtecha. God gives you the power, the strength, right? He gives you the power and the strength to do all the things that you do. Joshua Haran, number 17. Whatever happens to us follows Hashem's providence. We must believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu supervises everything from on high, and that everything that transpires is a result of His will. Without His help, a person's efforts and his toil will bring him no benefit whatsoever. We should therefore be conscious at every moment of our awareness of God's existence. However, Pasuk cited above tells us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows man to act on his own. He gives man the potential, the means, the physical and the spiritual capability to accomplish great undertakings in the world. Yet it is a man's own choice that determines what he does with those abilities. The Creator has given mankind the tools, the capacity to choose correctly and to succeed in life, to fulfill the purpose of which He created us. Our task is to choose to use those tools properly, asserting passively that everything is in the hands of heaven diminishes our responsibility to Hashem and to ourselves. It's not me, it's God. No, don't say that. Because Baruch Hu allows us to choose how we will conduct our lives. True, He creates circumstances, but He allows us to use our emunah and the force of our desire to regulate the conduct and our own situation within those circumstances. Machshavot tovot mitzarapet ma'aseh. The Gemara says in Kedushin, keep going, number 18, right, that God links a good thought to an action. You think good, good things happen. You do good, good things happen. There were no 10, right, to give, right? It's a palindrome. You could read it forwards and backwards, because when you give, you get back. You do good, comes back to you always, no matter what. Number 19, Nefesh HaChaim. Every one of us possesses a divine spark of which we resemble the Creator. We are able to create the circumstances of our lives. Hashem created the universe ex nihilo, something from nothing, while mankind builds his life circumstances out of which he already possesses. By means of his thoughts and action desires, man activates the heavenly forces of Hashem implanted in the universe from the time of creation. You become godly, godlike, when you are choosing to do good. You become godly when you become something more. Skip to the last source. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Hamalach Me'eretz Mitzrayim, Harchev picha v'amalehu, right? God says, I am the God that took you and brought you out of the land of Egypt. Open up your mouth wide and I will fill it. He's saying, do something below to create a movement above. You want to make changes on a physical plane, you have to get the assistance from above. How does that start? Nachshon ben Aminadav stands at the beach of the Yam Suf. Nothing is happening. Moshe is praying. The Jewish people are freaking out. What does he do? He says, you know what? The only way to make change is to jump right on in. And he walks into the water and he keeps walking and walking and walking, and the water's getting higher and higher, nothing's happening. And it's finally, as it covers his nose and he has no more oxygen, the water opens up in front of him. Now, the Midrash says something fascinating. I grew up, I'm assuming like most of you, when you think about Yetziat Mitzrayim, you think about Charlton Heston splitting the ocean, because that's the way I think about it, right? The Ten Commandments, right? Now, you see that whole, the ocean splitting and you have a clear path. That's not what the Midrash says actually happened. Midrash says that what happened was that the ocean opened up a foot in front of them. And it wasn't a complete open path, and every time they had to keep that emunah, that the next step, the water would move away. It was constant. God doesn't just open things up and say, oh, yallah, go, come. It doesn't work like that, right? It's a consistent nozel, a drip, a flow of continuous work over and over and over again. And with that, my friends, we begin to change our own worlds. Small, consistent acts of positive thinking every single day changes not only your reality, but changes all of our realities. Have an amazing week. Bezrat Hashem. We'll see you next week.